Hi everyone, welcome back to Live Darts. Here we are at Alexandra Palace just before the PDC William Hill World Championships, and we've got Chief Exec Matt Porter. Matt, is it all becoming real now?
Yeah, this is it's the start of Christmas, isn't it, Phil? You know, we've come here today, we've seen the flight cases out, the truss in, you can hear the forklift trucks in the background, so we're just a few days away from one of the highlights of the sporting calendar.
Something real special just being sat in here watching them put it all together and seeing what it becomes, isn't it?
It's great watching it all come together. You know, it's a 5-day build. The lads drove down. Most of our contractors are based up north, and they drove down yesterday. Fortunately, not like 2 years ago when they were stuck in the snow and everything like that. Smooth run yesterday. In here this morning, and you know, we'll be down here every day just watching it all come together like, you know, one big jigsaw puzzle.
Back when we moved here in 2008, can you still remember the first time you walked in and where it was there to where it is now? Is quite remarkable, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, where I'm sat now, pretty much this was where the set was. You know, obviously we've rotated it 90 degrees and increased the capacity. It's got an atmosphere of its own, hasn't it? The intensity that you get here in the West Hall, and you know, we walked through the Fans Village, or what's going to become the Fans Village, a few minutes ago, and you yourself said it about what a great atmosphere it is in there as well. And it's somewhere that people come to enjoy themselves. They know they're going to be entertained, and they come here in the right frame of mind to have a good time.
When you were looking to move from the talent, was this always the first choice, or were there other options on the table?
I think because of the history that darts had at Alexandra Palace, this was always something that was going to be considered. It's quite difficult to get a venue for such a long period of time. You know, our hire is essentially 23 days, I think, our hire period. You know, so there's not that many venues that can accommodate that, and obviously with the associated infrastructure that we need around the event, like the Fans Village, the media, players area, parking, all those different things, you know, not every venue is suitable. So it quickly became apparent that Ali Pali, with its darts history and with the way that it's configured, was the number one choice.
Has it now become one of those iconic sporting venues, not just darts now? Because to start with, obviously there was scepticism around would it work, which we all know it does, but is it one of those firmly iconic venues?
Yeah, I mean, it's a venue that we at Matchroom Sport have used a lot in the last few years, until the boxing maybe grew on to the next level. We had quite a lot of boxing here, so Audley Harrison fight here. You know, we've had the Masters Snookers now at home here. We've had the World Ping Pong Championship. We've had the Moscone Cup 9-ball. You know, lots of different events, and I think it's a venue that, because of its flexibility, can be built to suit different styles of events. So it works really well from that point of view.
Have you got a first memory of coming here?
I just remember, it sounds a bit corny, but I genuinely remember the hairs on the back of my neck standing up when I walked in here and I saw what was then a big red set and the seating all laid out and everything like that. And it just gave a whole feeling that the World Darts Championship had grown up.
Keeping on topic with this year's Worlds, two new ladies in Fallon and Makuru. Call me a cynic, but Makuru qualifying from the Rest of the World qualifier, commercially that must be amazing for the PDC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's amazing. You know, it's from a women's darts point of view, it's good. You know, I don't think we've certainly not been having our phones ringing off the hook with Japanese sponsors or anything like that. But, so saying, Mikuru is obviously a big name in ladies' darts and in Asian darts, full stop. So, in terms of growing our profile in Japan, our broadcast partner over there, DAZN, are going to be making a big thing about it as well. I think it's great, and it's with ladies' darts, it's one small step at a time. It's not going to blow up overnight. It's not going to become a great, massive, huge event in its own right within a short period of time. It's something that we as darts, not just the PDC, but we as darts, whatever level we're operating at, have got to look to build. And it's something that we're keeping a close eye on. So I think it's a slow burner, and I think it's something that will have more long-term impact than short-term. But what these ladies are doing at the moment is blazing a trail for the next generation. You know, they're getting the chance to compete on the big stage. They're holding their own. The crowd are loving them. They're good characters. They're great players. You know, so it's a little bit like, maybe they're like the Emmeline Pankhurst of darts. You know.
And in the UK qualifier, Fallon, when she was 4-0 up against Lisa, I think she was averaging about 110. The men and the seeds must be going, what have we let ourselves in for here?
They don't want to play the ladies, do they? They don't want to play them. I mean, there's no disgrace to losing to a lady, but in the back of their head, they don't want to play the ladies. So that's great. That's what we want. Bit of nerves. Come on, fellas. Can you hold it together?
And obviously, 96 again for the second year. Are there any plans to go to 128, or is there a slight concern it becomes dilated if it goes that big?
Yeah, no, we've got to a point now where we feel the level of content is right. You know, we can never say never. You know, we're 64, then 70, then 72, now 96. But we feel that this number is right. You know, 28 sessions. The event goes on for quite a while. We don't feel that wherever you're playing darts in the world, you don't have the opportunity to qualify. You know, everybody who could be here is here. You know, if you haven't qualified, then I'm afraid it's hard luck. You know, there's plenty of opportunities to. So we feel it's about right at the moment.
Speaking on the opportunities, there was a lot made on social media that the rest of the world and the different territories get 2 chances to qualify, where some of the UK ones only get 1. Is that something that you're maybe looking at for 2020 to change or not?
Not really, no. I mean, they don't get 1, they get 43. You know, the Pro Tour's a huge, great big series of events, so everybody gets ample opportunity to qualify. Some players, by definition of their nationality, do get additional opportunities, but we're trying to grow this sport into a global game, and if people can't see the bigger picture, then it's very small-minded.
I know I can. Just obviously, we see on social media what's going on, and fans and they like to hear from you about these things, which is good. Another topical one is the World Youth Championship. Luke was sensational in winning, but that threw up different issues in him winning it. Is the age too high in relation to the talent? Maybe, obviously, we saw Luke, 24 years old, probably 6 years experience against a very raw Adam Gorlas, and that came out on stage.
It did, yeah, but in the same vein, look at how that will benefit Adam Gorlas in the years to come. You know, what a talent. He's only been playing a year or something like that, so amazing for him to get through to that level. We look at it and say that people are judging this age criteria by sports like football. Well, don't do that, because in football at 32, 35 you're finished. In darts it's 52, 55. Darts is a long career. So if you're telling me that somebody at the age of 24 or 25 who's got 30 years in front of them can't still be defined as a youth in the game, then I don't agree with that. You know, I think that ultimately these players have got a long, long time to mature, because there's not many Wayne Rooneys in darts. There's not many people who break onto the scene at the age of 16 who then go on to deliver consistently for 2 generations or however long. You know, it takes a while to break through. Darts is quite it's an adult game with the mentality and everything like that. So it takes people several years to get to what they would see to be something approaching their peak. So we think if we were to say that youth darts was, say, 21, we would be throwing a lot of kids on the scrap heap at 21 who would have the ability to break through by the time they're 24, 25. And we don't want to lose that talent from the game. We want to give them the extra opportunity to mature, give them the extra opportunity to become ready to play in the adult game, and take it from there. The fact that other sports don't have that age group as their upper limit for youth doesn't really have any bearing. We treat it on what we think's best for darts.
Again, this is just off the topic as well, that people want about, could it maybe align better? The JDC goes 13, 14, wherever it is, to 18, then the development tour goes 18 to 24, just to align it better. And that horrible age between 16 and 18 that is difficult for safeguarding reasons is then eliminated. Is that something that could happen?
Possibly. Yeah, we have a great relationship with the JDC, with Steve and Darren there. They're doing a brilliant job. We talk to them all the time about how they're evolving. Don't forget, they're a very new product as well, so they're still finding their feet in some areas. But yeah, we've got that pathway now from you can pick up a dart in the JDC at the age of 9 or whatever, and then you can go and become world champion at the PDC, having gone through JDC Development Tour, Challenge Tour, Pro Tour. So, you know, that pathway is there, and maybe there is a little bit of realignment that will come in years to come on that front. We've just got to make sure that everything's done at the right time when everybody's ready for it to happen. But that's not an impossibility, no.
Grand Slam as well, another great success at Wolverhampton. We were looking at Sky announced that viewing figures were up. Must be pleasing, and the performances were superb from everyone this year.
It's funny, isn't it? You know, just when I've seen some stuff this year about, you know, the averages have been a bit down, not been quite so many ton 10 plus averages. That's fine. You know, it doesn't matter as long as the darts is competitive, really. But people finding their feet now, getting themselves geared up for what's going to be going on behind us. So that's great. We want to see the standard as high as possible. We want to see competitive darts as good as possible, and ultimately we want everybody to play as well as they can do. It's not in our interest for people to be off their game. So the fact that the people are finding their form going into Ali Pali is brilliant.
Standing at the Grand Slam, Geraint Price finally getting the monkey off his back, beating MVG, but more importantly, he's turned into the darling of darts in 24 hours.
Yeah, he has. I mean, I think, you know, it was a little fad, wasn't it, all the booing and stuff like that, and it was funny for people for a while, and then it got a bit tedious, and then blah, 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 you know, dealt with it different ways at different times, but ultimately I think he's won people over now. His darts is doing the talking. People have seen that he's not a bad lad, you know, so ultimately I think that's something that he's probably might not necessarily feel it all the time, but maybe it's made him a bit stronger as a person and as a player, and his game's showing that.
One thing that came out as well from the Grand Slam was a comment from Michael Van Gogh about the 9 dart prize, that he said, well, there should be a prize, which is another thing altogether, but I might do a Ronnie and set it up. Could you ever see a dart player doing that? And then part 2, if they did, would it be frowned upon?
He'd just be laughed at, wouldn't he? He'd look an absolute idiot. Can you imagine standing up there and doing that? Michael's only winding people up. He's too sensible. He knows what he knows. He wouldn't do that. he knows how the crowd would react to that. I mean, okay, he won the 9 dart prize. What do you want, Michael? You're standing up there playing for 6 figures every week. So, there might be something up our sleeve for Ali Pally that you'll have to keep your eyes peeled for. But ultimately, we know that players are going up there to play at their best, and I think Michael was probably just having a bit of fun.
It was just the way he said, I might do a Ronnie, which made everyone laugh and got Barry talking on Twitter as well.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. We like a bit of chat.
The other one, obviously, people are putting 2 and 2 together of what's happened over the weekend. We had the matchroom boxing in Saudi Arabia. Then Barry announced the huge snooker deal. So they're going, is darts next?
No, we won't be doing darts in Saudi Arabia. And it's not something that's on their radar. It's not something that's on our radar. We'd like to go back to the Middle East. We had a few good years in Dubai, and we've got a few people over there we're chatting to in different states, but nothing planned in Saudi Arabia at the moment.
One of the worst kept secrets in darts as well. MSG has now finally been announced, which is great. Going to the East Coast, you must be over the moon with going to an iconic venue as well.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's a massive statement for darts. To go to Madison Square Garden, the Hulu Theatre is a fantastic venue within the Madison Square Garden complex, and it just is a big statement. The East Coast of America has always been its darts hotbed, has always been where the players, have been brought up in those huge leagues they used to have over there. So I think anywhere on that eastern seaboard is going to have a great reaction. We sold over 1,000 tickets on the first day, which was sensational. We've got 6 months to try and bang that place out. We know there's a lot of Brits over there, a lot of Europeans, and a lot of Americans and Canadians who want to go as well. So we're expecting a real big weekend there.
Was it tough to leave Vegas as well, though?
Well, listen, Vegas is a great place to go, isn't it? Everybody enjoys going there. It's iconic in its own right, but you have to do what's right for the sport. And we felt that probably from a crowd perspective, we'd plateaued in Vegas, and it was expensive for a lot of people to go there. Wasn't a huge darts community itself in Vegas. We'd probably go back there one day. But for the time being, we feel that the best way to grow darts in North America is to take darts to where the darts is, and that's on the East Coast.
Was it also important to move it away from the 4th of July weekend, for, like you say, for the expenses reason as well?
It was, yeah. 4th of July wasn't great. It didn't really bat an eyelid to anybody over here, but in North America it was a big deal. In America it was a big deal to do an event on the 4th of July period. With the way that things work in Vegas, it was pretty much the only week we could get the venues without spending ridiculous amounts of money, and I mean ridiculous. So we kind of had our hands tied behind our back there, but obviously it did have its drawbacks.
Lots of chat around the Premier League at the moment as well. We know obviously nothing will be finalised because this could change everyone's thinking, but has the actual format of how many players you're going to pick been nailed down yet?
We're still talking about it. We've probably nailed it down to 2 options really, maybe 3, but probably only 2. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but we're not far away from revealing it.
I'm guessing people can generally guess anyway. It's either going to be a straight back to straight 10 or a variation of how it was last year.
Yeah, you're not a million miles away.
Yeah. No, you smiling just makes me laugh about that, because obviously, like 2 years ago, I'm guessing Rob Cross wasn't even on the Premier League radar and then catapulted himself in. So to anyone chasing that dream, this is the opportunity over the next 2 weeks.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because of the number of players now, whether it's 9, 10, whatever number of players that are picked, then there's always spots available, and people can't rest on their laurels. It's no good saying, oh well, I've done this then or whatever. You've got to be on form now. You've got to be ready to go for the Premier League next year. So there might be a few people out there, who aren't perhaps assured of a place, and there might be a few people out there who have their eyes on a place. So let's see who does it on the stage behind us.
Glenn Durrant as well, bidding to be the only man in history to hold both forms of the world title at the same time. Yeah. Never been done before. He was openly talking about it. He's very aware of it. Yeah. What would that say for the sport if he could do that?
I don't know. It'd be great for Glenn, wouldn't it? Yeah. It'd be great. I mean, it's obviously a quirk of the calendar if that's possible.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, I think Barney came across and won the world title in his first year, and obviously Rob sort of did it in his first year, give or take. So it has been done before for people to win it in the first year. But Glenn's shown what a class act he is this year already. I mean, the semi-finals he's made, I think, was it Blackpool, Dublin, and Wolves maybe, but it's three really big semi-finals. So for him to come up here and reach the final wouldn't really surprise anybody within darts. He's a great fella and a fantastic dart player. So yeah, perhaps he'd be unified, and then would he have a mandatory challenger? I don't know. How does it work? I don't know.
Funny you should say that. That was another thing that was thrown up on Twitter. That could the darts ever be done as maybe like a boxing ranking where things like that happen? Not obviously taking away the calendar it is, but different events where you put on maybe like a pay-per-view card where it's X versus X and things like that.
It might start getting a bit confusing for fans. I think ultimately as well, when people buy their tickets, they want a certain guarantee of who they're going to see. So we couldn't start changing things around too late. I mean, boxing rankings have got varying degrees of integrity in them anyway, and our ranking list has got 100% transparency and integrity, so we probably wouldn't want to move away from that. That might not be quite suitable for us.
Gonna touch on the BDO as well, because there's a lot of genuinely concern at the moment that the BDO, one, their World Championship might not go ahead, and two, that the organisation might not exist come early next year. If the worst were to happen and they were to fold due to financial issues and everything like that, would you help step in and help the amateur game get back on its feet in any way?
It's something that we're monitoring. It's a position we're monitoring. We do some stuff for the amateur game, if you like, if you want to call it that, with things like the Challenge Tour and the UK Open Amateur qualifiers and stuff. So whether we'd want to deepen our involvement in that level of the game, I don't know. It's not something we've discussed in detail. We are obviously aware of the uncertainty with certain things within the BDO, but we wish them every success and hope that they stage a fantastic tournament at the Indigo, because ultimately it's darts for all. So we wouldn't want to be against that, and we have our own events and they have their own events, and it's not nice to see anybody struggle. So hopefully that if they have got any issues at the moment, they can overcome them. I've met Des. I got on with him fine. I think he's doing his absolute best in difficult circumstances. So we'll just watch and wait and see what happens.
I know the last interview he did, he wasn't too happy with the slam picks either. I know we laughed and joked about it, and he was like, well, if they were our picks, they'd have been very different. But everyone knew what the score was before a dart was even, or before the list was even put in.
They did. They're not his picks because they're not his event. It's not his event. Ultimately that's always been the case, and that was never an issue with the BDO before. And frankly, 7 of his 8 picks were the same as the 7 of the 8 players who played. So it's pretty obvious who the other one was. So it wasn't really a major deal. Unfortunately, there's one fella who didn't get in, who perhaps thought he was going to, but it would have been unfair for somebody to tell him he was definitely going to be in.
I think that was the issue, that he was told by ex-committee that he was on their 8-man list.
There's not a lot we can do about that. It's unfortunate.
Since the last time we spoke in Dublin as well, we spoke on Leighton being in the slam. Genuinely, how close was he, and was it more a safeguarding issue that ruled him out?
There was a number of factors why Leighton Bennett didn't play. We spoke to people around him, and everybody was unanimous in their decision that it wasn't the right thing for him to do at this time. It's again, when I go back to talking about the age for youth darts, there's no reason to rush Leighton at the age of 13, 14. What do you want to see him on stage at 14 and then by 17 burnt out? Nobody wants to see that, So what's happening with Leighton, he's got good people around him, good advisors, good sponsors, people who've got his best interests at heart, and his career will develop at the right pace for him as an individual, not for somebody who happens to write a tweet.
Was he genuinely close, though, to being genuinely considered, shall I say?
He was discussed, but it was never on a list and then crossed off. He was discussed.
Calendar for next year as well, is that pretty much set in stone now? Obviously we've had the extra Euro Tour added that we didn't know about, still waiting for some World Series to be announced, but is it, in your head, is it all set now, what's going on now and nothing extra to add?
No, we've got our 13 European Tour events, 30 Players Championships, we've got the TV events, we'll have 6 World Series events, and then we've added an extra Challenge Tour weekend, and then the Development Tour as well, World Youth Championship. So with the affiliate tours that we have, everything's there.
Just talking on the Challenge Tour, the 2 in a day has been brought up quite a lot as well. That it was Danny Jenkins, funny enough, so I don't know if you've seen it, but he was like, they wouldn't expect the Pro Tour players to play 2 in a day, so why should they?
Andy, listen, you always text me when you've got something to say, right? Andy, listen, if you can't play 2 in a day, either get fitter or don't enter the second one. In all seriousness, we want to put 24 Challenge Tour events on throughout the year. We clearly can't do that across 24 days. No. It's too many days. It's too expensive to stage. It'll double the players' costs, everything like that, So it might not be ideal for some players, but I don't hear everybody moaning. I look at the number of players who go deep in the second event as well, and they've had to endure the same amount of darts throughout the day. So, as I say, it might not be ideal, but nobody's holding your arm behind your back and forcing you to enter the second event of the day. If you only want to enter one, just enter one and give that your best shot, and then come back and play the first one on the Sunday as well. But for logistical reasons, if we're going to keep that many events, and we believe that the players would rather have 24 events than 12 events, so it's going to stay as it is.
That's fair enough. It's just that obviously Jenks always makes me chuckle as well.
I love Jenks. I've known him 15 or so years. We get on great. He's a good guy, and he occasionally just opens his mouth, doesn't he?
Is it that time of year where players just say stupid things on, where players say stupid things on social media, they don't think it's just like, long year, and they just go.
I don't think it's just players, and I don't think it's just this time of year. I just think social media as a platform encourages people to speak, sometimes in a stupid way anyway, doesn't it? Sometimes, I think Mardle did it the other week, didn't he? He just said, I'm going to go and have a little spell off Twitter for a while, and I think it's actually quite good for your mental health. You know, I find Twitter sometimes can be quite draining. But just have a week off it. It's quite nice actually, just to not even check your timeline.
And I do in January. Come the 2nd, I'm logging off for a week because it just does your head in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be too much.
Matt, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you at Alexandra Palace about all the darting matters, and we'll see you on the 13th as always, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Phil. Looking forward to it.